converted man here. I had the lobster thing first. All right. Special look at Jordan Peterson 2.0. A live look at Jordan Peterson. Because he said something about atheism, and it got brought to my attention by a different channel that was covering what he said. And, well, I didn't know he said stuff, so I need to look at what he said. So this is a live response, reaction, whatever you want to call it. It's not an in-depth analysis per se. I will be doing one later in a recorded version at some point in time. Might be a while, but right now, just gonna respond live. Whatever comes into my little head here to respond to, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna do this for until I'm sick of doing it, or an hour at least. Whatever comes first. I don't know. So here we go. This is Jordan Peterson, and he's talking to this guy, and the correct time index for this is in the description. So starting at 11:11, or sorry, 11:11, 1:11:14 is when this when I'm beginning this from, because that's the relevant point. And so here we go.
Choice.
I stopped going when I was 13 as well.
How much control do you have?
I just
over
made it
13-year-old?
miserable for my mother until she gave in.
Well,
yeah.
Right.
What do you think the best argument for
Right.
atheism is?
I don't think there is a good argument for atheism.
Okay, so the question was, what do you think the best argument is for atheism? And the answer is, I don't think that there is a good one. All right. Okay. Let's go. Let's see why. I mean, as an intellectual, you should be able to steel man anything. Anything at all. Ideally, you should be able to have the strongest argument that there is to have for any given proposition. And Peterson spent a long time looking at the horrors of World War II, what happened specifically with the Nazis and how it was that Hitler rose to power. So I'm fairly confident, if asked, Peterson could give a steelman argument for what Hitler did. Justify what Hitler did. Steelman Hitler's argument. I think he could do it as a purely intellectual. He might find it abhorrent to do, but I think he could do it. Don't know if he would do it, though. A professor or at a college or somebody, that's teaching or what have you, they might be able to do it, easier. It might be done in a classroom setting or a debate setting or something like this. And you might feel morally tarnished to do it, but it can be done. And you need to be able to do it. Why? Well, because you need to be able to attack the best argument that's out there. And if you don't, if you're not aware of the best arguments that there are, or not aware of the arguments that there are, whether you think they are the best or not, you need to become aware of those arguments. And at the very least, you should make your own argument for the position. Even if it's not a very good argument, at least you have something. But if you're going to be an intellectual, you ought to know the various arguments that there are. But the question might be malformed. Argument for atheism. I don't know. I guess I'd take issue with that. I'd say, what do you mean by that? Because atheism is two different things. If you mean what's the argument for not believing in God, there's plenty of arguments for not believing in God. If you mean the argument that there is no God, well, there's arguments for that, and then there's definitely arguments for particular versions of God. At the very least, I would say that the best or strongest argument one would make would be an argument of paradox, that any God that is paradoxical in nature could not hope to exist. Such God concepts would be impossible and therefore have to be false. They'd have to not be true, not be real. They're imaginary. And so there's at least one argument for one particular God not existing. So there's at least in part an argument for atheism against that one God, if nothing else.
I think it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the world. So it's just, it's what would you say? It's an illegal chess move.
Okay. Well,
it's based on the wrong.
This might just show that I don't understand you, but we'll get to it if I don't.
The best argument for atheism.
What's the best materialistic, of the worst
materialistic determinism is the best argument for atheism.
But isn't that a...
Why would that be the best argument for atheism? I mean, materialistic determinism. Okay, so those are two philosophical concepts kind of conjoined together. It might turn out to be that determinism, at least for the brain, is true. But you'd still have all your work to cut out to prove materialism, wouldn't you? So, but wouldn't it really be the burden to show that there's anything but the material? I mean, the only non-material things that there are concepts, and those don't do things, they describe things. So it seems to me that materialism is true until you show that it isn't. And as far as determinism goes, I don't know why that would or wouldn't be an argument for atheism. It'd be an argument for materialism, which may entail atheism or may not. I see no conflict with saying that there's a materialistic God that's also predetermined, just like all of us are, if we are indeed predetermined. The Calvinist certainly has no problem with predeterminism. So under a Calvinistic system, you could have a predetermined God that's predetermined to pick people who are also predetermined to make the choices that they're predetermined to make. And in such a system, if you want to say, well, all there is the material world, fine, then God is material as well and exists within a material framework, just different than our framework, a material framework that's always existed. And there's no conflict there. So you could still be a theist even if you had a deterministic, materialistic framework that was proven. And I know it's kind of odd to argue the other side, but that's the thing, is you've been asked to argue for, you know, what the best argument for atheism is, and you gave an argument that's not a very good argument. So I don't think that you're thinking this really well. It's an illegal chess move. I'd love to hear that analogy. I'd like to know more about that, though.
A philosophical sort of assumption or axiom?
That's a problem.
Yeah. Like for me, I think it would be, if this, and let's just choose the Christian God, if he exists and wants me to know him and save me, wouldn't he make it easier? Why does he make it so difficult? Why does he seem to hide? And
because you have something to do. Okay. You have something important to do. It's no game. The price of life is death. It's not a game, right? There's evil too. You have something to do. It's not easy. In fact, it'll take everything you have. Everything. Right? That's why you're to consecrate everything to God. This isn't...
Okay, so the reason that God is so hidden is because you have stuff to do. Yeah, I agree. I have stuff to do. I have so much stuff to do that I have no room for God. What do I need God for? Oh, I have to consecrate everything to God. So I have to give everything to God, which means I have nothing to do anything with because I gave it all away. How can I do anything now? So which is it?
This isn't, you're not an infant.
But
And you're not being treated by God like an infant. You're being treated by God like someone
responsible moral agent. He doesn't just want comfortable little pets in his
someone.
Well, God isn't treating us like anything. He's ignoring us as far as I can tell. There's not a thing that God is doing. It's not evident that there is a God in the first place. So you're just explaining why you think God is hidden now, and none of these answers are very good for that. This goes way off the original question, which is interesting. You couldn't give an answer for, but anyways,
someone to be made in the image of God is to be someone who wrestles with potential. To genuinely
wrestle with potential.
That's right. Well, that's the tohu vabohu that exists at the beginning of time, right? The potential, the watery chaos.
Okay.
The Spirit of God sits above the chaos, the primordial chaos. And
yeah, these metaphorical ideas and poetic ideas that Jordan often blends into his view of the world can be of great benefit in a poetic way. I think the problem is when you think that they're really real. Now, he argues that they're so useful that they might as well be real. And he had a long debate or talk, whatever you want to call it, with Harris on that and what truth was and all that. And they got nowhere. And I think that's because Peterson's view is that you act out what you believe, which I don't know that he really does. I'd love to ask Peterson the single question of if he really thinks that people act out what they believe, then it would be obvious to me that nobody believes in an afterlife, even though they say that they believe in an afterlife. If we all act out what we believe, then where are all the people lining up to end their existence looking for the next world? I mean, some people do end their existence, but they don't do it in a fearful state. They do it usually because of depression or other mental illness or what have you. Or maybe they do it because there's no other way out of a terrible situation. But I don't see the droves of people lining up ready to off themselves, very happy to do so because they know that there's another world guaranteed. So I don't think that there is. So then that idea that we act out what we believe would have to be false then, at least to some degree. I'd love to catch him on that to see how he fixes that paradox. But at any rate, yeah, this has nothing to do with the original question, but we're far off that. We're in the weeds. Okay. Now, metaphor. This is all metaphor about what you think God is, or what do you think, that you're a creature that's trying to find, a purpose or meaning or intentionality or whatever. Yeah, I can agree with all that. I just don't need God to do any of that stuff. I understand why some people do, and that's fine, but that's not really anything to do with atheism, though.
And extracts order out of that. That's what you do as a conscious agent, and you do that. You do that in a way that is aimed towards hell or aimed towards heaven. Really,
but you wouldn't think people who claim to be atheists are necessarily irrational. Because
they're perfectly rational if you accept the initial axiom, but I don't accept the initial axiom.
What's the original?
Like I said, it's something like a materialist determinism.
Yeah.
All right, so you get that wrong. I don't know that Peterson. I wonder if he's sat down with an atheist to talk. I know he had a quick talk with Dawkins, relatively speaking. They didn't really talk about atheism, though. And he talked to Harris, but they didn't really talk about atheism either. So I don't know that he has really sat down and contended with what atheist is, or what atheism is, or what any particular individual atheist believes or doesn't. All I can tell you is what I've read of atheists, which isn't much because I don't really read atheist content too much. Well, other than what people post. I mean, I know a few blogs here and there. I don't read like books or whatever per se. But all the atheists I've dealt with, experienced over the time I've done this, about almost 12 years I've been on YouTube, being an open skeptic and doing this stuff, is that pretty much everyone has said that there's no the evidence that we have for everything else is what they would expect to find for God. Is that really assuming the natural world? Because he seems to say that the philosophy is one of naturalistic determinism, but I don't find that in my atheist comrades, associates, friends, acquaintances, people I've known, whatever the label is, fellow YouTubers, whatever. What I find instead is just I didn't, well, it depends which one, but this broad definition, broad brush stroke of I don't see the evidence for this thing, and since I don't have the evidence for it, then I don't believe it. That's it. And if it cares a bit about me, then it will make itself evident. I'm told that it cares. People tell me that all the time. It's like, but I don't see any evidence of that. Goodness gracious, hasn't he read Langston Hughes' Salvation? Peterson, come on. You've got to have read that. There's no way you hadn't read that. Here you have a very good example of atheism free from materialistic determinism. Hughes is not a materialist or a determinist, not even a little. There's no hint of that. This is just a ginormous straw man that you've constructed in your mind of why people reject God. Hughes writes how his grandmother was excited for him to be saved, how he had gone to church, all this time up until this one Sunday when it was now time that Jesus was going to come for him. He was excited. He was ready for it. He was, they were praying and dancing and singing and he's praying and he's asking for God to come, and he's waiting for this to happen, and he's obviously eager for it, and nothing is happening. Nothing. He's sitting there waiting and waiting, and nothing's happening. And the kid next to him is also waiting, and everybody's, come on up, and they're like, I guess they're both waiting for this feeling to hit them. The other kid, I don't know what he had told to him, but he's waiting for something. He doesn't know what. And finally, the other kid's like, "What the hell is this?" And he goes on up. And I guess he said that rather quietly, but Hughes heard it. And he didn't see the kid get struck down by lightning or, smited or whatever. And he's like, even though he blasphemed, and this is based completely off memory of the essay. But at any rate, then Hughes is like, I guess I'll go up. I mean, I'm not feeling Jesus, but if I don't go up, I mean, then this, what happens? Like, the ceremony keeps going. They keep going until I go up. So, I mean, it's like he didn't really have a choice but to go up and be saved. Like, he couldn't say, I'm not getting saved today. Like, that wasn't really an option from the social pressure around him. So that night he cries. And his grandmother overhears him crying, and he overhears his grandmother say, oh, he's been filled with the Holy Spirit. And what she didn't know, but he knew, is that actually no, Jesus never came for him. So he didn't believe in Jesus anymore. There's no hint of naturalistic tendency there. There's no hint of materialism or determinism there. There's all that's there is an expectance told by his grandmother who loves him, expect this wonderful feeling to come. Expect Jesus to come for you. You could say, well, the grandmother was wrong to say that to him. Perhaps. But that's what she had experienced multiple times, perhaps. Maybe every time she goes to church. But what she couldn't have known at the time was that not everybody experiences what you might call God, because our brains are wired differently, which is something I would hope a psychologist would know. And so not everybody can experience God or what people call God. Now, that experience, I don't think it's God. I think it's just an experience that your brain is able to produce that people have mistakenly labeled God, but I could be wrong. But of course, if I am wrong, it's really weird that God would let some people be able to experience it and other people not able to experience it. That would be odd. But going back to Hughes, there's not anything there except for a true desire to encounter the divine that is not fulfilled by the divine. God let Hughes down. God did not give Hughes what Hughes was desperately wanting and seeking with all his heart, mind, soul, spirit, whatever. And for many atheists, that's their story too. That when they needed God most, they didn't find it. When they needed God most, God wasn't there for them. That's plenty of stories. Not all, but it's a lot of the stories. Most of the stories is I didn't see the evidence for God, so I couldn't believe anymore. And then some of the stories are I saw the immorality of these holy books, and I couldn't think that was from God. So I couldn't believe in those gods anymore. Maybe there's a different God, but I don't see evidence for that. So everybody's pretty much saying, hey, I want the evidence. Oh, but that's a materialistic way of looking at things, is wanting evidence. Goodness forbid that we want evidence for stuff. I have plenty of evidence that humans exist. Plenty of evidence. But I don't have evidence of this thing? So I don't know that that's true, Thomas. I'd have to see a poll that shows that. But at any rate, okay, so yeah. What else you got, Peterson?
Yeah. No. First of all, whatever matter is, and we certainly don't understand it, it doesn't look at all like something deterministic at the highest level of resolution. Mm-hmm. There's something very weird going on down there at the quantum level, and what the philosophical implications of that are, God only knows. But there's no easy determinism in the physical realm. So anybody who claims that is like stuck in the world of Newton. They're like in 1830.
Yeah, but who cares? Because that's one subset of philosophy or science, possibly. So if we have an equation that perfectly explains the quantum realm, which we might, maybe we don't have it yet, but maybe we will one day, and then says, well, here's how it all makes deterministic sense, and here's proof that the universe is deterministic, well, I guess you're an atheist now. But it's interesting that we have to prove to you this idea when you were asked what the argument for atheism was. Well, I guess you're saying that's what the argument would have to be. But then you're saying that can't be the argument because things don't make sense at that level or whatever. I wish you'd make up your mind. Either this is a good argument. Oh, well, but it's not a good argument. So there is no good argument. So what you said first, there's no good argument. It's just a misunderstanding of the way things are. I don't know. It sounds to me like you don't understand how things are.
Way past
what
that.
If the person just says, all right, I'm open to believing in God or not believing in God, and I've seen no good evidence or arguments for God's existence.
It's like I said, it's an illegal game move. It has nothing to do with. See, the problem with that argument is that it's an atheist argument right from the beginning. Well, what's the evidence? It's like belief in God is not propositional acceptance of a set of descriptive facts.
All right. You said it, not me. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. So I don't need to believe in it. Nobody should. Based on what you just said, nobody should believe in it. If that's what you're going to define it as, you just defined it out of existence. And you want to say that's an atheist thing? No, it's just a realist thing. That's just, you've just defined it out of existence. So yeah, you Jordan Peterson has defined God into non-existence. So this would be something, if I was doing this an edited video, I'd play. Well, I'm going to play it again because it's so worth replaying. But I'd play it like 4 or 5 times in a row and speed it up and slow it down and flip them over and whatever. So look forward to that when I get to it. But yeah, let's do that again because yeah, this is great. I hear that again. Let's just do that again. Yeah, let's hear that again.
Open to believing in God or not believing in God, and I've seen no good evidence or arguments for God's existence.
It's evidence. Yeah, evidence. How dare you ask for evidence of something? Oh, come on. Oh, man, you're asking for evidence? Oh, why are you asking for evidence? You just believe stuff without evidence. Come on. The fact that you're asking for evidence, that's the wrong way to go. Obviously, you shouldn't expect there to be evidence of something. Oh, that's just silly. Why would there be evidence of it? Now, you know how many videos I've responded to claiming that there's evidence of God? No, I'm asking because I have no idea. It's a lot, though. I think the number would be a lot. I don't know. I'd have to a lot. So obviously they think there's evidence. Let's see. Let's see. Claims or evidence. That was one claim. Let's see. Had a debate on the evidence of God. Origin of life is evidence of God. People saying that arguments are atheists. Okay. So somebody wrote evidence that God exists. There's one video. There's another one. That's 2. I don't know. Let's see. Proof God exists. I count that. That's 3. 4. There's evidence for God. There's another one. Okay. Anyways, at least 4. Let's just go with that. I don't want to keep counting my own videos. So, yeah. Lots of people seem to think that there's evidence for God, but how silly. How silly to ask for evidence. That's just ridiculous to ask for evidence. Yeah. Look at that. Look at the way that he reacted to that question. The way that he reacts says everything to me. Evidence. Who needs evidence? Just like the shock and awe of him reacting to evidence. Wow. Amazing.
Like I said, it's an illegal game move. It has nothing to do with. See, the problem with that argument is that it's an atheist argument right from the beginning.
It's an atheist argument.
What's the evidence? It's like
asking the evidence is an atheist argument. Asking for evidence is an atheist argument. Really? Is it? Okay. All right.
Belief in God is not propositional acceptance of a set of descriptive facts.
Okay. Belief in God is not. I want a transcript of this. I got to get this written down. I just want to get it right. I don't want to say it wrong. Let me see if the transcript comes up here. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me get that here. Belief in God is okay. Hold on. Okay. All right. So somebody check me on this. Make sure that I got what he said correct. This is in the transcript. Let's go back a bit just to double check because I don't want to get it wrong. I want to get this completely right before I rant about this.
Well, what's the evidence with that argument? Belief in God is not propositional acceptance of a set of descriptive facts.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so belief in God is the opposite. It's not a propositional acceptance of a set of descriptive facts. All right, let's see if I can diagram that out in real time. Probably no. There's no way I'm going to be able to diagram that out. That's going to take an edited video to do that properly. Propositional acceptance of descriptive facts. Okay. So anything that you say about God cannot be a description. It cannot be a fact, nor is it a propositional acceptance. So it's not about any of those things. Did I get that right? I mean, just you let me know. Let me know if I got that right. You know, like is that what he just said? Because I think that's what he said. You know, so did I get that? You know, so it's not that. It's not. So it's propositional acceptance. So we can just narrow that down to say agreement with facts. How about that? So it's not that. Okay, great. So it's not a not describe not descriptive of reality. That would be another way of it. Okay, sure. Yeah, I agree. Belief in God is not a description of reality. It's not an agreement with facts. It's not a description of facts. It's not a propositional acceptance of descriptive facts. Okay, so yeah, it's a belief in non-facts. Okay, cool. Thanks, Peterson. You've just debunked God. You've given the greatest argument for atheism. Right there, what you just said, that's actually the answer to the question that you were first asked. Well, let's see if I can do a decent Jordan Peterson imitation. I don't know, probably not. But what you gotta say is that the propositional acceptance of descriptive facts, right? Like I'm gonna say that something is true, all right? So I'm gonna say that 1 + 1 is 2. That's a descriptive fact, all right? Now, the propositional acceptance of that requires you to accept that numbers are things and that unit of 1 is a thing and the unit of 2 is a thing, right? And once you understand that, right, then you can have a propositional acceptance of these descriptive facts. Okay, now, God is not one of those things. God is not a descriptive fact. It's not an acceptance of them. Okay? So that's what the best argument for atheism is, that God belief is not a propositional acceptance of fact. And that's why people are atheists, because they're saying, look, whatever you believe in, it's not a fact. All right? Yeah, there you go. And then the other guy would be like, oh, that's a pretty strong argument for atheism. How do you debunk that, Peterson? And then Peterson would be like, something about Kermit the Frog and rainbows or something. I don't know. Anyways, my straw man of Peterson now ends because my nose is getting tired of being held. All right. So I guess that's the the acceptance of God is not a description of personal. It's not a fact. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, that's a good argument for atheism. Thanks for playing, Jordan. Do I need to keep going? I mean, I that's it. He gave the answer. I don't need to keep going though. I'm gonna keep going. You want me? To, you? No, I don't. I don't. Okay, fine.
That's not what it is. It's commitment, right? So what does it mean to follow in the footsteps of Christ? To believe. It means to hoist your cross and walk up the hill.
I love it. They put blasphemy there. Okay, so it's not a descript. But you said it wasn't a proportional acceptance of descriptive fact. But then you said to take up your bleeping cross and go up the hill, which is a description of something that I should do that's a fact. So which is it, Peterson? Is it that I should take up my cross and go up the bleeping hill? Or is it that there is no fact, a cross, there is no hill, and I shouldn't take it up the hill because there isn't any hill to take it up? Because it's not a descriptive of fact that I should do any of those things. Do I got it right? Because I'm just trying to be consistent here with what you said. So belief in, following Jesus, which is now different than God, but okay, whatever. I don't know, maybe not, whatever. So it's taking up your cross. Well, it's not taking up your cross because that's a descriptive thing that would be a fact that there would be a cross. So it's not taking up a cross, not going up a hill, and it's not doing any of those things because otherwise it wouldn't be belief in God, right? Or did I miss something? Just,
It doesn't mean that you say, what does Christ say? Not all those who say, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What?
Well, that I agree with. And Jim Bob will be one of those idiots, in my view, if there is a deity. But I think that, going on that tangent, maybe it's more like C.S. Lewis did. Which, Lewis was a writer. But in Narnia, he has the last battle, which I'm now going to give spoilers to talk about. But the end of the world happens. Okay, so everybody's dead. Everybody's being judged now. And some creatures are going into the shadow of the lion, which is Christ, and they never return. And others are going into the light, and this one guy's sitting there confused. He's like, I don't understand. I've served whatever this Baal, not Baal, but Ashta my entire life, whatever. And he's like, well, you thought you were, but actually you were serving me. Because anything you do that's good, that was for me. Anything you do bad, that's for the other guy. And so you thought you were serving bad, but you were actually serving good. So I kind of was like, yeah, you're in. Come on, you get in. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe that's like what a true judge would be like. Is like, you didn't know that you were serving God, but whatever you did that was good, that was God. So come on in if you did good. It's more of a universalism that you don't get in based on what you believe, but what you do. That's more closer to Zen or not Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism, which is a precursor to Judaism. Zoroastrianism was a belief system, I guess still is a belief system, that rewarded you based on behavior, not based on belief. So, yeah, I'd be fine with that. That's a much better system. And there's a hint there of Zoroastrianism and what Jesus supposedly said there. It's like everybody that says Lord, Lord, they're not all going to get in because they didn't really serve God. But he never says, hey, if you don't see Jesus as God and you don't do this, that, and the other thing, that you don't get in. Well, although he does kind of say that, the only way to God is through him. So there is a bit of an exclusionary tactic that's involved. But maybe that wasn't really Jesus saying that. It was somebody that said that Jesus said that. Yeah.
But it's not, it's the religious doctrine is not a scientific theory. It's not something you believe like you believe a description of a set of facts.
Okay.
It's a mode of being. It's a mode of apprehension. It's a mode of perception. It's a mode of action.
I'm pushing back to see if I
Yeah, no,
can
that's
understand
fine.
what you're getting at. Like, in order for me to marry my wife, I need to know she exists, and I need to know she's interested in me, and I need to be able to pursue her, right?
To marry your wife, you need to take a leap of faith.
But I need to know she exists first in order to.
Okay, let's not go there, because faith is not required at all, and that at least as I understand what faith to be. But I really hope we don't. Okay, just I don't want to go down that tangent.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying with God's existence. If God does exist, surely I need some kind of reason to think this isn't just a story I'm telling myself.
Conscience.
What about it?
Where does that pesky little thing come from?
Okay, so you don't know where X comes from, therefore Z. I don't know X, therefore Z. What logical fallacy is that? Come on. Somebody yell it. I don't know X, therefore Z. All right, I'll wait. I don't know what X is. I don't know how X works or where it comes from, therefore Z. What's it called? What's that fallacy? Name that fallacy. Nobody's doing it in chat. Okay, fine. Fine. I see how it is. It's appeal to ignorance. Mote and Bailey. No. Well, there's that too, but yeah. Or appeal to personal credulity. I don't know how else this could be. Consciousness. Where does that come from? Your brain. There you go. Oh, but where does it come from? Your brain. But where does that come from? Your brain. No, but where's your brain come from? More brain. Where does that come from? Brain. I'm just going to say brain. Yeah. Where does it come from? Tides come in, tides go out. Can't explain that. Yeah, well. Consciousness is proof that of itself. Nothing else, nothing more. Not knowing where it comes from, that's not an argument for anything other than your ignorance. I don't know. Don't know where it comes from. Comes from the brain, probably. And so that's it. Okay. And
I think there's three options.
Okay.
One might be we evolved this way.
That's fine. I'm perfectly happy with that.
But here's my problem with that. Yeah, because if you say, okay, if we were raping and pillaging, we would have never gotten this far as a species. Therefore, these things have become taboo or something like that, which is a far cry from saying they're somehow objectively wrong or mind independently
I don't know. It's not
evil.
so far. It's not so far. No, I think the evolutionary biology and the religious will dovetail perfectly.
Well, okay, but
yeah, thank you. Thank goodness he says that. Thank goodness he's not against evolution. Thank goodness for small favors, right? Well, it'd have to, because evolution's true. So whatever religion you have, if it's anti-evolution, it cannot be true. End of story. So if your God doesn't allow for evolution, then your God's not real. Now, some gods do allow for it. Not all. Not all religions allow for it. So you have to find a way to have your religion allow for it. And and there will be people of that religion, I guarantee you, that say, oh, no, you've got it wrong. Evolution isn't true, and therefore God. And you're like, look, evolution is true, therefore God. And you'll never get anywhere with that debate. But at any rate, at least he's fine with evolution. So
then here's the thing:
God is the deepest instinct.
If I now know that it's evolution that's wired me thus, I can choose to disobey it. It's lower than me. I could be.
I mean, whatever. I don't know. Who is this guy that's interviewing him? What's his name? Pince with Aquinas. Okay, whatever. I don't know. He's some talking head. I don't know who this guy is. Not very good questions, in my opinion. But not that I could ask better questions. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could.
Raskolnikov, presumably. I could
Right,
go
right.
against
Well,
it.
of course, that's
And another source would be individuals. Like you could tell me I'm a bad person to do X, Y, or Z, or praise me if I do other things, and I might feel good or feel bad. Or collectively as society, you can say this.
Yeah.
But just as you have no right, it seems to me, to determine how I ought to live, collectively, why would you have any more authority?
That's Raskolnikov's argument too.
So it seems okay. So
or the Marquis de Sade.
So this objective morality could come from beneath us in evolution, from outside of us on our level.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes from above us, and then it's like, okay, if it comes from above us, is it in some sort of platonic form? And if
what? We're in the weeds now. I don't know where you're going, moderator. I thought you were trying to ask Peterson questions. Now you're off topic now.
It is a platonic form. Is there a commandment being issued, and why do I need to be?
What does God need with me doing anything? Like, what does God care what I do or don't do? Why does that matter to God? And I don't care how powerful a thing is, by the way. If it comes from beneath me or next to me or above me, I don't care where its location is. What I care about is it a good idea or not? And how do I evaluate it? Is it true or not? Does following this lead to a good result? And by good result, what do I mean? And for me, I guess it's simple because utilitarianism, pretty dang simple as far as moral systems go, ethical systems go. Not a great one, not a perfect, none of them are perfect, but least harm to the least amount, most good for the most amount. Okay. Well, what's good mean? Well, benefit. What do you mean by benefit? I mean, it prolongs your life in a way that where not just that your life extends, but also that you're happy as life is extended. That your mental, physical being is kept intact or elevated above where it is. So that you are not necessarily happy, but that you are able to obtain happiness and satisfaction. So I'm not going to just drug you up and have you live the rest of your life super high, although some people might want to live that way. If they want to live that way, fine, so be it. I want to make it a world where they could live that way if they choose, but also a world where people might choose to not do that, and that's fine too. And that whatever they decide to do or not to do is all permitted as long as it harms no other. That is, as long as it doesn't negate somebody else's ability to do what they enjoy. Your happiness and ability to have fun ends before you get close to my physical being. That's one way to say, your freedom to punch ends where my face begins. Well, actually, I'd rather it end a little bit before my face begins, because because it's still gonna hurt me. So I'm gonna put you further away from me. So your freedom to pursue maximal well-being is limited by other creatures and their freedom is also limited in regards to your freedom, and back and forth, and there's a balance there to be maintained at some level, and figuring that out, it's extraordinarily complicated. Maximize freedom but minimize security. Well, okay, but maximize security to and minimize freedom, but now you're safe. Well, but you're not free. So you can be safe or you can be free. You can't really be both. So you have to have a little bit of, a leeway there. You have to give up something at some level. You eat something until you're full. You can keep eating because you found it pleasurable. I would advise against it because it's going to harm you in the long run. But if you know that and you don't care and you choose to do it anyways, then that's your choice. And you're free to make that. And in my perfect society, if you will, you would be able to pursue even the things that cause you harm, as long as those things don't harm other people. So then you go, well, wait a minute, your friends and family are getting harmed, at least at a mental state, because they're sad that you're hurting yourself. So we have to limit your freedom to some degree to get you to try to stop you from eating too much. How do we do that? Well, we use words and ideas to try to change your view on eating so that you eat until you're satisfied and you don't keep eating even though eating is desirable. Maybe it's the taste that you're after, so maybe we could devise something that tastes great but doesn't give you any calories, you know, devise a gum or something that's very tasty so that you can continue to have that pleasure. Or maybe we can find some other way for you to obtain pleasure that isn't going to be detrimental to your health and therefore detrimental to the mental well-being of those who care about you, because they don't want you to deter your own health, even though doing so is making you very happy. They're becoming unhappy. So it's a careful equation, and there's no way that a single individual is going to be able to figure that out. There's no way, and I don't even know that a group could do it. I don't know that, you know. And so we humans, universally all trying to apply utilitarianism, uh, you know, it's still not going to work perfectly. It's never going to get to be perfect. It's not such thing. You're not going to do it. You're not going to know enough to be able to do it. And I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but because we're talking about doing the right thing. I don't care if it's from evolution and it's like, raping is bad because evolution. Okay. Is raping actually bad? Yes. Why? Because I'm causing somebody else mental harm. Mental harm that could be prevented. Mental harm that must be prevented because it does them no benefit. Now, it might benefit me, but that doesn't matter. My benefit is negated by negating their benefit. So I have to negate my benefit, whatever that might be, my personal moment of happiness or feeling of power that I felt over that individual. Okay, but well, is there some way that we have somebody that's a serial rapist? Okay, get him a robot. Get him a lifelike robot that he can rape, or he can rape or whatever. And then they couldn't have that, and it harms no actual being. Is there some other way that we could get them out of that? Maybe. And maybe that's more effective in the long run. But for now, okay, we give them a real doll, spend some money on that. Far cheaper than prison, by the way, but we get them, and if we're satisfied that they're always going to use that doll and they're never going to take their impulses out into the real world, then great. Then we fixed that problem, didn't we? And, that could go same way with, other cases where people want to do weird sex stuff, that we don't want people to do, like animals or I don't know, older people or younger people or whatever, And you might say, well, but who decides? Well, we decide. What if we decide no to gays? Well, gay doesn't hurt anybody as long as both people are consensual, so blah, it hurts my feelings. Okay, well, but now see, your feelings have to be negated in order for the greater good of everybody to not be negated. So then we go back to the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and sometimes the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many, but it's a careful balancing act. Anyways, it's a complicated thing. All for me to say, I don't care where it comes from. I care whether or not it's actually true. And in my evaluation of, in this case, rape or whatever, it's like, no, that's actually bad because it causes harm. It causes harm that could otherwise be prevented. And there's no need for it. There's some other way to satisfy that urge, desire, whatever. And perhaps having that urge or desire is actually a negative benefit for me to have in the first place. So perhaps the best benefit would be for me to not have it. Whatever that takes to do that. Whether it's medicine or surgery or some robot or whatever. And if it comes from next to me, I don't care. As long, again, it just needs to be true. Comes from above me. It needs to be true. Here's the problem where it's like, oh, it comes from above, so it must be true. No. Because it might not be. First of all, I need to be darn sure it's coming from above, but why should it matter what authority it has? Well, it made everything, so what? You have no power over me. How dare you? Oh, I'm God. I don't care. Whatever. Do whatever you want, man. Go ahead, obliterate my existence. Make it so I never existed. Do whatever. I can't stop you. But you don't get to tell me what to do or not to do. And if you do say, hey, do this, well, I'm going to evaluate it just like everything else. I'm going to evaluate in the same way that I do everything else. You get no special benefit from coming from above. Anyways, big tangent. Big old tangent. Back to Jordan, I guess.
Obedient to a platonic form.
So you don't end up in hell. That's why.
Right. So I could, yeah.
No, but seriously, that's why.
I see.
It's like,
this is sort of like
violate the moral order and watch what happens. Go right.
Okay, so yeah, I do agree that violating the moral order leads to chaos. And if chaos is hell, then yeah, I agree. I don't think it leads to a literal hell after death, though. That's where I don't believe in a celestial punishment or reward system. And I don't think that we need to believe in that in order to do good or bad. But Peterson seems to think that we act as if we do that God is for Peterson, and I could be, this is my view of Peterson's beliefs, so they could very well be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. But having listened to this guy on and off for, some time, this is my conclusion of his beliefs, is that God equals morals for the most part. That when he talked to Dillahunty, he seemed, Peterson had a debate with Matt Dillahunty. Although they didn't talk about atheism, which again, that maybe they should have, but they debated God. Kind of. Peterson didn't really have an argument for God per se. And one of the questions asked, it was by, oh man, I can't remember, but he's kind of a famous, well-known atheist YouTuber, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But anyways, somebody in the audience asked him, well, what would it, you said that, we don't act like atheists. What would an actual atheist act like? And he mentions this guy from whatever the book is, because you would act in this way or whatever. So atheists we actually believe in God, because God to Peterson is morals, is doing the right thing, and we atheists try to do the right thing. So therefore, we do believe in God, because that's what God is in Peterson's head, is the doing the right thing, or at least trying to do the right thing, is God. And that leads to heaven, or at least towards heaven. And when you don't do that, you go towards hell, chaos, disorder. And the metaphor is a beautiful metaphor. I like it. But I think it's just a metaphor. But I think that Peterson layers on top of that not only is it a metaphor, but that's actually what God is that God's actually morals, which means that God is dependent upon humans to exist. And the moment the last human no longer is, then God no longer is. Isn't that interesting? And that too would be a good argument for atheism. Let's see. All right. I'll do a little bit more. Almost done. We'll finish him talking about atheism section.
Right ahead.
I'm with you. This is the sort of Aristotelian Nicomachean ethics idea, right? Where like eudaimonia is just flourishing. And so it's like there is a way to act.
You put yourself in alignment with the cosmic order.
Yeah. But I could choose not to do that.
Sure.
Which is, you can choose to go to hell. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, it'll be a fine ride on the way, and maybe it will, but that's where you're headed. So no, everything has to be put in proper order. That's why Christ says that he calls upon his followers to be perfect. Why? Because everything has to be put in the proper order. Why? Because otherwise it falls into disorder. It's like, is that good? Well, if you want disorder, but what are you going to do? You're going to heap burning coals of fire on your own head? Well, you can. That's hell. Every devil shoveling the burning coal on his own head. Right.
I'm still trying to get at this. So what if I just say, all right, I can't believe in some invisible sugar daddy up in the, this is not what I think. Invisible sugar daddy up in the clouds who's going to give me a theme park if I just quit masturbating. All right. I can't believe that anymore. It just seems like it's bullshit and it's a fairy tale that people tell themselves.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's a concretized representation, but it's not without its wisdom. Like there isn't anything more complex in the cosmos than a human psyche. And to think of the psyche, let's say the Father, as a representation of the highest spirit, it's not prima facie absurd. It's not a bad metaphor. So here, I'll give you an example of that. So,
and maybe all it is a metaphor. Why not stop there? It doesn't need to be more than a metaphor. But this makes God completely dependent upon humans and not humans dependent upon God, which is the reverse of what Christianity tends to teach. Maybe, and I've said this before, I thought, and I still think this, Peterson's version of Christianity is better than the current version of Christianity that we have. I think that's still true. Listening to this, I thought, I'm going to disagree with Peterson on everything. I do, but his version of Christianity is still more secular and still more codified than the current version of Christianity is, at least in my view of Christianity, as shallow as that view may be, which is pretty shallow because I, only interact with the Christians that come my way these days. So, and the few cool Christians that I interact with are already different from mainstream, if you will, Christianity, the zeitgeist of what it means to be Christian. Certainly, Jim Bob is not a Christian in any sense of the term. He doesn't act that way. He acts like a bully. That's not Christian love. That's not the understanding and compassion that I've known for many Christians throughout my lifetime. I've experienced that non-Christian judgmental attitude, the Christians that use the Bible to justify their judgment of you as an individual or what you've done, and those aren't true Christians either. The true Christian is the one that's going to love you and help you in wherever you are in your life, and not judge you or manipulate you or tell you how wrong or bad you are. They're going to love you upwards. And there aren't that many of those, sadly. But Peterson's version of Christianity is a lot closer to getting towards that ideal. So if plenty of Christians listen to Peterson, hey, good. Maybe Christianity will have another reformation, and it'll be the Peterson branch of Christianity. Oh, why not call it? Yeah, the Peterson. Yeah, you could be Baptist, you could be Peterson. Why not? Sounds like a church. I go to First Peterson International. Do you go to East First Peterson or West First Peterson? I go to West First Peterson. Okay. Do you go West First Peterson established 2024 or 2025? 2024. Great. Do you go to West First Peterson established 2024 with night service or day service? Night service. Heretic! Kill him! Anyways,
Imagine all the admirable men you've ever known.
Doing it now.
Okay. Well, they have a unity, right? It's the unity of whatever makes them admirable.
Yeah.
Right. So they all reflect the same spirit. Seriously, they're all approximations to the same spirit. Well, what's that spirit? What's the God of Abraham?
No, it's not. But I guess in your view it is. All right. You asked me to picture the best men that I know of. Why men? I don't know why it would be men and not women, but okay. I don't know. A couple come to mind instantly: Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi. Gandhi certainly doesn't align with the God of Abraham. Martin Luther King Jr., although he was Christian, his march towards freedom using peace might be seen as a Christ allegory of some sort. But there's also something to be admired for Malcolm X. Although his methods didn't work in the long run, certainly there is a time to fight in the way that he wanted. But that aligns with the Muslim God, Allah, because he was Muslim. I don't know, Mr. Rogers. Well, what was special about him? Well, he was that kind person on and off screen, as far as I can tell. It wasn't an act. And he really did care about kids, and he really wanted to educate kids. He really wanted to care, and he really did care. It wasn't an act. It wasn't there just to make money. He did make money, but that wasn't all it was. I don't know, Mr. Wizard. But then I think of when I look at Don Hubert, who was Mr. Wizard's clips on YouTube, I found this he was being mean to these kids, and I never noticed it. So I don't know. I don't see I don't know if there's a common thing that I guess you could extract it if you wanted to, that was some common feature, but that seems to me like you're pattern seeking then. And it seems to me that then you're saying, well, how does this align with this idea that I have about the God of Abraham? Rather than, what's the God of Abraham? I'll tell you what the God of Abraham is. It's not whatever Peterson's talking about at this point. And his view on what the God of Abraham is very different than what the Abraham God is. His view is completely different than what's in the pages. He has extrapolated so far out from what the Bible says that his version needs to be written down. It would be a new Bible. It wouldn't be the Bible we have. But that's fine, because people make God in their image. They do it all the time. But that's precisely why I don't believe it's anything more than that. I don't think that Peterson isn't talking about anything more than his idea of God. He's not talking about an actual God that really exists for real, because his belief is based on his abstractions that he has put a lot of time and energy to making. And I like his version of God a lot better than I do other versions of God, but I still see it as nothing more than an idea and not a reality. And I suppose he would argue that I must view it as reality because I follow morals or something like that. And I just say, but you're just making God morals. I already have morals. I don't need to add God to it to make them more real. They work well enough without adding that to them. Wow. Okay.
That's what it is. This is a definition.
Yeah, all right.
So
Okay. That's a definition, but you said that belief in God wasn't about definitional propositions about facts. So it can't be a definite. Okay. All right. That's enough for now. I've had it. I'm done. I've gone an hour. It's too much. I don't want to do more. There's more. He says more. He says more. I'm not done. All right. Continued in part 2, I guess. So, yeah. Let's do it more later. I'm done. I'm gonna put in the top comment, belief in God is not a whatever the fuck that thing was. All right. Interesting. Very interesting. More later. Until then, well, we didn't have an argument. That's kind of sad. I wish he had given an argument. I guess he kind of did without meaning to. But I wanted him to give an actual argument. I think he could if he understood what atheism is and not what he thinks atheism is. And as we saw from my last talk with that last dude, sometimes that's really hard to do, apparently. Oh well. That's it. Bye. Hit the button.